Want anything special for your birthday?
Just a decent cup of coffee.
You're kidding.
I'm serious. Honey, your coffee's undrinkable.
It's pretty harsh.
Well, so's your coffee. You know, the girls down at the office make better coffee on their hot plates.
And he didn't even kiss me goodbye. You know, if I could just make a decent cup of coffee, I could relax.
So relax. Why don't you try Caffeine from buyproteincoffee.com? Tastes good as fresh perked.
Good as fresh perk.
And it has protein. 10 grams per scoop.
I'll surprise Harvey for his birthday tonight.
Hey, great coffee.
Doesn't it taste good as fresh perk?
Better.
Better than those girls make at the office?
Honey, their coffee can't hold a candle to yours.
Caffeine, the world's only instant coffee that's fortified with muscle-building protein. Visit buyproteincoffee.com now.
New York's very own muscle-building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
New York Muscle Radio. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian.
That was probably the best intro for New York Muscle Radio has ever heard. But if you're a new listener, welcome to the best muscle building podcast, fitness podcast on iTunes. Episode number 126, The Benefits of Caffeine with Dr. Jeff Golini. Big man, what's up there? I haven't said this in a while. Praying and spraying?
Let me ask you, why are you asking me that right now?
Well, I heard the glute commercial.
Oh, I see.
After that, you're kind of single, so now you're spraying and praying.
That should imply that I would be praying and spraying, right?
Exactly, because I heard it, and I was when you first let me listen to it, I was hysterical laughing, and then I heard it, and I'm like, he's gonna be single very soon. Well, because was there a little degree of, a little grain of truth in that?
I'd say that there's always a little grain of truth in everything that we do in life.
But man, I was hysterical because we were talking about it on the podcast. So you're pretty creative, man. That's all I gotta say. Sometimes when you let that mind of yours that's always wandering, when you let it flow, it actually good things come about.
Oh, it's always wandering. If that's the way to describe it on its own. So if I let it do its thing, sometimes it's very beneficial. Sometimes it's very destructive too.
Exactly. So today we're talking about the benefits of caffeine and why caffeine is important. And I have we call him a third co-host, Dr. Jeff Golini, on, and his sound quality is a little bad. He didn't really have a lot of service in his studio today, so don't mind that little audio glitch. My co-host here, he's gonna get Japanese on us, and he's gonna really try to edit all that out. But again, if he can't, just excuse the quality. But Dr. Jeff and I actually, I went to him to formulate my product, so we actually talk about that in there. It's a cool podcast. I think everything comes together good, so I can't wait for everyone to listen to it. But should we go right into this quote, big guy? The quote of the day. I'm in the mood for it. So it's Monday, and we're recording this, so it's right after Sunday Night Football into Monday Night Football today. So this quote today is by Emmitt Smith, one of the greatest running backs, right? He was a running back?
Yes.
Yes, he was a running back. Thank God. So his quote is, "It's only a dream until you write it down. Then it becomes a goal."
Yeah, very, very good quote. I actually heard that a long time ago, and I remember it was one of my favorite quotes for a long time just because it made me realize, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, and you always hear people talk about dreams. Oh, it's just a dream, like, oh, that's my dream is when I become, a kid might say when I'm older, my dream is to become a pro football player, something like that. And, a dream is good, but doesn't require you to take any actionable steps. And I think that writing things down puts that in place. You know what I mean? When you write down that you're going to do something, then you'll take action for it. I mean, you could be somebody who doesn't, but writing it down will help you. That is a form of action, but then from there you gotta go beyond that.
I've never actually written. I mean, I have written goals down, but I don't know. I can't write them down for some reason.
I actually, funny. This is I believe this is a Skip LaCour thing.
We should just quote him every time.
Yeah, I believe you probably know about this too. I think he said somewhere that when his goal was to win the the Team Universe. I believe he wrote it down on a index card in front of his computer or something so that he had to read it every single day. And for him, that was reinforcing what his goal was every single day, so that he would take a step to do it.
But do you have to read that every day?
No, I don't think so. My biggest thing...
That's a little extreme, I think.
Well, bodybuilding's an extreme sport.
No, I know, but do you have to like, all right, when you're entering a show, it's kind of all that consumes your mind anyway. But
yeah,
you really have to put that next to your computer so you could stare at it and say, "Oh yeah, I forgot."
I've never done that. I mean, I have written things down just to see if it made me more proactive in terms of reaching my goals. And I do think sometimes people need to remind themselves of why they're doing certain things. So let's say I don't know, if somebody's goal is to start a diet, we'll apply this to fitness. If their goal is to they want to lose 20 pounds or something because they're going on a vacation and they want to look good. Some people always say this, like you'll see it on Facebook, like, oh, Miami in 30 days or whatever, the countdown. If you start your diet because you want to look good when you get to Miami or something like that, as it gets closer, you'll start to drift a little bit from your main goal, which is, okay, and you really want to drop 30 pounds. But if you have that constant reminder, okay, Miami's in 30 days, I need to be on top of my game.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and you're 100% right with that. But he was talking about doing one of the best bodybuilding contests on there. Like, you really have to remind yourself every day, like, oh yeah, it's like the Mr. Olympia competitors putting on their computer, like, oh, I have to remember this coming up.
Yeah, in case I forget, here's a reminder: the Olympia's coming up in 30 days.
Like, I never. With my own powerlifting meets, like I have a meet coming up and I don't have it on my wall because I know it's there. I know what's going to happen, but I just know I got to take the action every day to do it. And I guess I guess it depends on the goal. I mean, I'm sure there's some things that I could write down and see every day. It's like, all right, I got to do this. I think you have to do that with one of those goals that you dread doing.
Yes, I was about to say, if you're passionate about it, you don't really need to remind yourself. That's the biggest thing. I think that's more of for me, actually, to be honest with you, writing things down, we're kind of shifting a little bit away from goals here, but if I have to get things done and I don't want to do them, if I write them down, they get done. So I think that does apply.
Well, that's why I always write things down for you. I think you got that from me.
It might have been. I actually I have my notepad and my paper right here.
See, everybody makes fun of me. Mine's right here. Look at this. Look, see it? Everybody makes fun of mine. Everybody makes fun of that. Oh, you have to write things down. You're like, oh man, but just something different about writing it down versus using it on the phone. When you actually see it and you're able to cross it off the list, it actually makes things a lot easier.
Oh, I agree 100%. Since I started writing what I have to do down on paper, because I always used to just put it in a notepad on the phone or something, or just think I was going to remember it, not. But since I started writing it down, I definitely think I've become more efficient at getting things done.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So again, guys, it's only a dream until you write it down, then it becomes a goal. So again, I think this only really applies to write it down when it's one of those things you actually dread. So again, if fitness is something that you're struggling with, and maybe that constant reminder, if you really want to look, like whatever, a certain fitness person, a fitness model or whatever, maybe put that up on your fridge when you're tempted to cheat, just so you see it. You got to have some type of visual reminder for yourself if the goal is, seems to be unattainable for you. If you have that constant reminder somewhere, some way, maybe this podcast is that for you. Maybe every time you hear us, it motivates you to get to the next level, and maybe just listening to us regularly will do that. Yeah. You got to figure out what it is. Not necessarily writing it down might not be the answer for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody has a different way of doing it, but you definitely want to find ways to keep yourself motivated along the journey.
Guys, so let's shift gears a little bit here. I want to talk about a sponsored athlete program for 2017. We've gotten a huge response in our inbox for it because we didn't even put a sign-up page on. Yeah. We just had people email us directly. So we got a lot, and we're going to close this up. So the last sign-up date is October 16th. Again, if you guys really want a sponsored athlete position with us for New York Muscle Radio, your last sign-up date is going to be October 16th. So get your application in before the 16th. And we're going to announce the winners the week of October 17th. So the last day to sign up is the 16th, which is a Sunday. And we're going to announce the winner any time during that following week from Monday on. So we're super excited. We already have a couple of candidates in mind that we're going to choose. So again, if you're interested in getting on board with us and having us, coach you throughout your year, you want to get ready for the beach, whatever your goals are, we don't care. We're not biased to just bodybuilders. It's a fitness podcast. So anyone in particular can sign up. So again, get those emails over to newyorkmuscleradio@gmail.com.
Yeah, and like you said, we have so many people that have actually already submitted. So we have to close it out very soon because we're just going to have too many to look at. But we want to leave it open for anybody who hasn't submitted yet. So if you're thinking about it, get it in because it's going to be a very limited amount of time left. And we're excited to announce them. We have to sit down and we have to go through all of them. So get those in as soon as possible, guys.
Yeah, don't forget to include, obviously, pictures, your social media handles, because we have to make sure that you're a good fit for New York Muscle Radio podcast. All right, man. We also got to talk about our seminar. Seminar is coming up soon. You guys need to book your tickets now.
Yeah, so we do have the pre-sale going on right now. There is a discount for that. It's $50 off if you do book it as of right now. That's only going to be open for a few more weeks as of right now. It is closing in on the time, actually, because we're going to do it at the end of November. So we have a little bit over a month until that goes down. And again, you guys definitely want to get that early bird special right now because the price will go up another $50.
Pete, do you have the date in front of you? Because if I type it in on my computer, it'll
so
freeze.
As of right now, again, this is going to be in East Meadow on Long Island. And the date that we have set as of right now, this is still a tentative date. It will be that weekend. It will be the Saturday, the 19th, unless anything changes. But as of right now, that's the date that we are setting.
Yeah, so again, pick up your tickets. We're going to cover an array of topics, flexible dieting versus rigid diets, calories in versus calories out, macronutrients. We're going to discuss a lot of stuff. We're giving away a lot of bonuses too, cracking the flexible dieting code, the arm experiment, or the glute experiment. You get a t-shirt, you get a bottle of the ultimate protein coffee, Caffeine. So there's a lot of benefits. Once you get to hang out with two handsome fellas the whole day and learn about your fitness. So if you're a trainer who's interested in taking yourself to the next level or your client to the next level, this is something for you. So again, check that out. Head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com and sign up now. Yeah. Don't miss out on this because this is going to be a really, really awesome thing. I had to actually update the website because we had a couple of spots that sold. And I have to update the website there. That was dropping the ball on my part there, big guy.
Yes, again, so the spots are limited too on this as well. So you definitely want to get on the early bird special. You want to get in because the seats will fill up. We can only have a certain amount of people in this location before it fills up. So definitely get on that soon too. But I'm excited to put this together because like Anthony said, it's going to be pretty much top to bottom, everything you need to know about fitness and nutrition. It's definitely going to be something that if you either know a decent amount on the subject, if you know a lot, or if you know nothing, you're going to get a lot out of it. For anybody who comes here, the goal is to take somebody who may not understand flexible dieting, may not understand the optimal way of nutrition or weight training, and transform them into somebody who understands everything from top to bottom. If you do know a lot and you already apply it, you're still going to learn more because we're going to have a lot more in there that you might not know about.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the listener question of the day. Again, if you guys have a question you'd like us to answer, you could submit it on our website, NewYorkMuscleRadio.com/listener question. Today's question. Hi, guys. I've recently stumbled across your podcast and can't get enough. I'm a 46-year-old male who has been out of bodybuilding since I was 20. I was fortunate to always have a job that was physically demanding and stayed in relatively good shape. The past 4 months, I've been taking high-intensity interval training classes and getting back into bodybuilding. I've been professionally assessed and have gone from 20 to 17% body fat. I've also gained muscle and feel as though I'm on the right track now. My trainer, who is a competitive natural bodybuilder, suggests I enter a contest as a novice next year. My question is, or rather request is, I would like to hear from you guys that have been out of the bodybuilding for some time and returned, their struggles at an older age and the routines they use to get competition fit. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. Tim James in Cleveland, Ohio. Ohio.
That's a good question, actually. And, obviously me and Anthony are not going to speak from experience on that. But
yeah, I haven't been back to the bodybuilding state.
Yeah. But the biggest thing for somebody like that is if you found out what worked for you in the past and you had a good way of training and nutrition and you enjoyed it, that's definitely a good place to start again. The only thing you need to know is obviously your recovery ability might not be the same. Your joints might not be able to handle the same amount of weight, stuff like that. So it's all about easing into it. But the biggest thing is finding that balance for yourself because, again, if you're just getting back into it, and even if I gave you the optimal plan, I said, listen, this program, this nutrition plan, this training schedule will get you there the fastest, but it's not something that fits your lifestyle. It's not something that you enjoy doing. You're probably not going to stick with it for very long. So the biggest thing is taking what you do like and being able to apply that to your lifestyle to get the results you want. But again, Even if you like training heavy, maybe your body might not be able to handle it right off the bat at least. You have to ease your way into it. I think that's the biggest thing. Don't jump the gun and try and go 100% back into it. Even if I take a couple of weeks off from training a certain movement, or if I have to heal a little injury, even now, it's not an extended period of time off. And we're going back into it. It's never full force right back into it. So he's easing back into it.
Yeah, I actually want to do a whole podcast on recovery. So that's something that I'm gonna actually take my notepad here. See that notepad, Pete? And I'm gonna write it down right now because I want to do a whole podcast on the topic of recovery and what you could do to enhance your recovery. So writing it down as we speak. Recovery podcast. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned, you pretty much answered all of his questions, but as far as the routine to use to get competition fit, that's going to really come from a diet. You have to make sure that you're getting lean. Whatever built muscle in the off-season routine-wise is going to keep muscle on the best when dieting down. And this is just even for regular fat loss as well. So I would say make sure your nutrition's in check. I mean, you mentioned you had a trainer, so I would just kind of listen to what he says. But if he's telling you to just eat, egg whites and oatmeal for breakfast and tilapia and asparagus for lunch, then you should probably fire him and hire New York Muscle Radio coaches to take you to the next level, because we'll get you there. But again, it's going to really boil down to your diet, making sure that you just keep getting leaner and leaner after, week after week.
Yeah, and I mean, that seems to be the biggest thing that people will struggle with, especially being out of the game for a long time, is sticking to a diet, because that's the biggest lifestyle change. Anybody can go from not training in the gym to spending at least, a half hour, 45 minutes to an hour a day in the gym 3 to 5 times a week. That's not too much of a big change for the majority of people. The biggest thing is the diet and lifestyle change, because that's something that you do for the other 23 hours of the day.
Exactly. So, all right, man, today's podcast, like I said, is going to be a cool one. We have Dr. Jeff Golini coming on, and we're going to talk about the benefits of caffeine. So I don't know if you want to give a little intro here as to why we chose caffeine pretty much. I think, caffeine is one of those things that's really overdone in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to get Dr. Jeff on because, one, he's a doctor. He's a lot smarter than most people. And this is what he does for a living, obviously. So I wanted to get his point of view on it as opposed to just us. That's, our view on caffeine. So just to kind of get, to kind of validate our points.
Yeah. I mean, caffeine's a really good topic to talk about because, especially like you said, it's overused in the fitness industry. But at the same time, just in general, the consensus on caffeine is, it's different for everybody. You'll get one group of people who swear by it, say it's great for health purposes. You'll get another group that says, caffeine is terrible for you. And like you said, in the fitness industry, most people overdo it. But at the same time, there's so many benefits to it that I think a lot of people that do overuse it aren't even aware of. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Jeff Golini and the benefits of caffeine.
Damn.
Nice, Pete.
What?
I saw you checking out that girl's butt.
What? I was just checking out her yoga pants.
Pete.
I was thinking you'd look really good in yoga pants.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to check out what brand it was. I was looking at her form on deadlifts. They were all messed up.
Do you think she has a nicer butt than me?
Well, it definitely doesn't look like a pancake.
Did you just call my butt a pancake?
Well, I mean,
What can I do?
you gotta try New York Muscle Radio's Glutylicious program.
Glutylicious.
Yeah, you'll finally get a celebrity booty, like all the other girls following the program.
Fine, I'll do it. But don't get jealous when other guys check out my glutylicious ass.
Glutylicious, your guide to getting a celebrity booty in 12 weeks. Now available exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous. Like that, bang!
My name is Anthony Bevilacqua, and I'm the host of New York Muscle Radio podcast. My arms have been a weak point for years. When I started training, my arms measured 11 inches. Even after many years of hardcore training, nothing would get them to grow. With the help of my co-host, Big Pete, we set out on a mission to gain 1 solid inch to my arms in 12 weeks.
In the greatest experiment of all.
12 weeks later, this program finally helped me get 18-inch arms. The 12-week ARM Experiment, the Ultimate ARM Growth Program, ebook, the audiobook, and the workout video. Pick up your copy now on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down that tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
Hey guys, it's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, and I just wanted to announce that my brand new personal training facility is now open. I'm currently taking on new clients in the Long Island, New York area. If you're interested in working with the best personal trainer in the business, head on over to abfitnesstrainer.com and sign up for your free consultation. Then you can understand why bodybuilding.com has named me Personal Trainer of the Month. All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 126. Again, today, the benefits of caffeine. And we got on the line our special third co-host today. We'll give him the co-host spot, Dr. Jeff Golini. Dr. Jeff, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Wow, man, I'm a co-host. I'm excited to be here, Anthony and Pete. Great to always appear on your show, and a big hello to all your listeners.
Yeah, last time you were on, you got a warm welcome, and now it's glad to have you back on, buddy. We're super proud to have you on, and you're actually my formulator for my product, so this is a perfect fitting podcast because I want to go over some of that, and we'll talk about all the caffeine stuff. So it's perfect. You're the science guy, so
awesome.
Like Bill Nye. Remember Bill Nye the Science Guy, Pete?
Man, I that's bringing back memories. That was elementary school for me. He's still around though.
Yeah, he is still around. I think he actually did he went ahead and did a video that went viral a little bit not too long ago.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he actually is a scientist, you know?
Yeah. I didn't even know he was a real scientist, but I guess he is.
As far as I'm aware, he actually is, yeah.
So let's get right into this. So, Dr. Jeff, let's hear caffeine from the science point of view. So what are the benefits of caffeine? I guess we should go into what is caffeine. Let's talk science first, and then we'll chime in here and there.
Caffeine is interesting. It's actually the number one legal drug that's sold. And I say that because caffeine technically is a drug. Now, most of the caffeine, comes from natural sources. So when you grow a coffee bean and you decaffeinate it, our industry takes that caffeine and we turn that into what you will see sometimes in products when it says caffeine. Most of that comes from natural sources, from guarana or from coffee and things. But caffeine essentially is a central nervous stimulant. It is a vasorestrictor, meaning that as your heart starts to pump, it actually restricts some of the blood vessels. I think a lot of times people don't realize is there are so many benefits of caffeine, and guys, that's kind of what I wanted to touch on is just a few of them, because most of the times you hear caffeine is no good for you when actually it is good for you. So a couple things that it does help with. If you've ever got cuts in the mouth or even throat type cancer, it helps to eliminate some of those risks that you can get from that. It reduces strokes as much as 22%. So how about that, man? Drink some coffee and minimize strokes. But again, most people have strokes because their blood isn't flowing well enough. I saw some studies that it's shown to reduce the risks of several types of cancer. You do have, it also helps to decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes. And I think a lot of that is, coffee as a central stimulant, nervous stimulant, speeds your metabolism up and kind of, crossing over into that, as you guys know, you can either get on a treadmill and increase your metabolic rate, or you take some caffeine. Essentially, it does the same thing. So by metabolizing body fats, I think that's why we see things like type 2 diabetes. Most of it is from people just being overweight. A lot of times with strokes and heart attacks, it's just that the blood isn't flowing, and caffeine kind of helps get things moving, and sometimes it cleans those pipes out.
So let's move on to like improving body composition and just, we'll talk about that since we got a lot of listeners here who are interested in changing their body. So what effect can caffeine have on improving body composition?
I think because it's used in a lot of diet products, whether it be caffeine or, caffeine from cola nuts or from guarana, again, by increasing your metabolic rate, you're going to metabolize body fat. And what you got to remember is the more body fat you hold, body fat sucks up vitamins and nutrients, all the things that is essential towards muscle building. So you'll find that the lower the body fat, the better you build muscles. I remember when I was bodybuilding, I used to put some of my best muscle on while I was dieting, because as my body fat came down, I was putting muscle on all the way up to the show. So I think you'll find that by the fact that it helps to speed your metabolism up, metabolize your body fats, again, as we said, it gets the blood flowing, you're moving nutrients to those muscles, and it's a great pre-workout, way to get mentally focused. So you're going to have better workouts, which means better growth.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to touch on that. A lot of people nowadays, the new trend seems to be all these caffeinated pre-workout products. So they just consume all this, and they all these other products that are in there, all these other ingredients, which we'll touch on later what the difference between those are. But it just seems to be like everyone nowadays grabs a pre-workout before the gym, and then. But I do think there is a lot of benefit to having a pre-workout product before you work out, because like you said, it wakes you up a little bit right before your workout, and you're able to plow through and do more reps, do more weight, which will always have a benefit to building muscle.
Absolutely. And, again, this is quite a few years ago, back when I was training, we had caffeine pills and things, but I actually personally utilized coffee, because when you take like these, even though the caffeine may have come from a decaffeinated or from a coffee bean originally, once it's processed, it acts much differently on the body than getting it from a natural source. So I didn't like the fact that it took you up so fast and then you crashed hard on just regular caffeine. And that's the problem, Anthony, with a lot of the pre-workouts is you will get going, but man, you will crash. That's why I really like getting my caffeine from coffee, because, again, you will start to amp up over about 10, 15 minutes. But if you notice, you amp down very slowly. So you come off coffee when it's from a natural source a lot easier than taking it in from synthetic sources.
Yeah, and I actually noticed something very interesting, too. This has always been something that I've done in the past, as well as drinking coffee for pre-workout, but other sources of caffeine, like let's say if I were to get it from tea or maybe like you said from cola, they never really seem to affect me the same way coffee does. What's really the reason behind why coffee does that?
Well, I think, again, coffee has, for the most part, a higher concentration of caffeine. And I think it's the way that we make the coffee. When you are running it through a coffee machine, you are actually doing an extraction process. Now you're doing the same with tea, but tea doesn't contain as much caffeine. And I think a lot of times, who knows if they're actually taking half the caffeine out of that tea, because all those teas come from China. Nothing against China, but let's face it, they do cheat. So I wouldn't put it past them, man, to rob us half of our caffeine. So, you take a green tea and you just don't feel the same. But coffee, there's something about coffee. Once you have run it through that coffee maker, what you're doing is you're actually extracting out the caffeine. So you get higher concentrations of caffeine. You end up with anywhere from 50 sometimes to 100 milligrams in a cup of coffee. But the key is you are drinking fluid, and that fluid is helping dump it through the stomach. So that's one of the reasons why when you drink coffee, it's at the right pH. Most people drink more than one cup of coffee, where tea drinkers, they drink those little bitty, cups of tea, and then that's about it,
So based on what you're saying right now, this is kind of how I had the idea to come up with my product, Caffeine, and this is why I figured I'd partner with All American Pharmaceuticals, because I know you guys hold the gold standard in everything. So when I approached you about the idea, you absolutely loved it. But this is kind of the route that I wanted to go down, because I know all these other pre-workouts full and loaded with other stuff that we don't need. And what better way to get a product in all naturally than using coffee? So I guess let's discuss what caffeine actually is. So I'll let you take it. Since I've before, I'll let you take it.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you did, and I was excited because I'd been thinking about this idea for a long time. You know, as a coffee drinker, most bodybuilders, what do you do in the morning? You drink coffee, and then you wait for hours to get your protein in because, again, you don't want to mix that milk with that coffee. We tried to mix our whey proteins in our coffee, and they curdle. They get hard. They don't mix. So we don't do those. We didn't mix those two together. You said, hey, look, man, what about, is there a way to get protein into the coffee? And like I said, I had invented this protein a long time ago. I just didn't have a good fit with it. So what we did was we developed a very, very high-end, very biological available protein that is processed with the coffee. So not only did we instantize the coffee, we instantized the protein, and the process in the protein allows it to be heated without being denatured and without it actually curdling or breaking apart. So this product you can heat just like a cup of coffee. You don't even notice the protein is in there. It's like adding a creamer, but guess what? You got 10 grams of protein. No sugar, no fat, no artificial sweeteners, artificial flavorings. I mean, it's the coolest thing. 3 cups of coffee, not only are you ready to go to the gym, you got 30 grams of protein in your system.
Yeah. A lot of people have been saying that it tastes almost like an espresso type of a blend because it's a little bit darker. You know, I know we kind of got the beans from a little special location. You want to talk about that?
Ooh, I don't know if we should give out that location, huh? No, these beans come from actually Brazil, which is some of the best bean growing regions. They're lightly roasted, so it's kind of about a medium roast. So that's why it's a little bit darker. But then when we run it through that instantization process, we are actually concentrating that coffee because, as you know, you wanted it to be a certain strength of coffee. So we probably put an extra tablespoon or so into a cup. So you almost get, like you said, an espresso, a double cup, but it's not bitter. It's very smooth tasting. And then you don't even taste the protein. It just tastes kind of like a cappuccino almost without the foam.
Yeah, the cool part of it about the whole thing is that you can also use it cold. So what I've done, I've actually mixed it in a shaker bottle. Now, if anyone's tried to mix coffee cold, you can't do that. You have to heat it first and then cool it. So what's the difference in that process as far as that goes? Because I know we solved the heating thing with the whey curdling. So how did we get the coffee to instantize cold?
Again, it's the same process backwards from the whey. We took that coffee and we ran it through a process using more of a cool processing where we used a water, basically a fluid bed machine to expand out the coffee. So if you notice, the coffee is a little bit bigger crystal in there. It's not like a very dry powder. And that allows for that cold water to get inside that coffee grain and then disperse into water, where most of the coffees, again, the way they process it is very packed and it has to be heated and extracted. Even the instant coffees out there, you can't make them cold. They're only designed to be heated. So again, the same process we took the protein, we did a reverse process with that coffee, and there you go. Cold, hot, completely stable. You don't need to refrigerate it. You know, when it's in a powder form, very economical, easy way to get coffee and protein at the same time.
So based on that, you know, a lot of people have been saying that it's really, really smooth, the coffee, you know, and I think it has to do with the way we got it in there. But it's almost, the beautiful part is, and this is what I really wanted, was I didn't want any aftertaste to it. And that protein that we formulated really has no aftertaste, and I didn't want because I wanted the average person to be able to use this. You know, a common problem most people get is they can't get their protein. I mean, we're talking about bodybuilders here, and it's easy for a bodybuilder to get their protein in, but for the average person, getting your protein in can be a job. It's very, very hard for the average person. So my main concern was getting in the protein without an aftertaste. And it's so funny because I guess this is one of the purest ways you can have whey. It has no taste whatsoever.
Yeah, you don't even know it's in there. I mean, you would probably drink this and go, this has got like, a coffee creamer or something, but no, it doesn't. It's pure protein. And again, it's just part of the process. But, Anthony, when you came to me and we discussed this project, the first thing out of your mouth was, I want the best. I want the highest quality. And the problem is on the marketplace, most of the brands are just the opposite. They want the cheapest stuff they can sell, and they're going to sell it at a premium price. Well, when you use cheap ingredients and you use cheap processing, you get what's sold at these big box stores, these discount stores, and most of the time it's cut with sugar or glycine. I mean, it's garbage. And then they add all these thickeners and stuff. I mean, protein is about how much you can absorb. You can take all the protein in the world, but if you're not absorbing it, then it's worthless. And again, this product is very, very clean. There are no thickeners or gums or sweeteners or anything in there. And as we talked about, caffeine gets the blood to flowing. So this product is actually dumping through the stomach and moving into the GI tract very, very quickly. So you could literally drink this as a pre-workout and have those amino acids ready to roll for muscle building.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because with all the things going on in this industry nowadays with products not meeting label claims, what tests did Caffeine actually go through to ensure proper dosing and to ensure that it was actually as pure as we're saying it is?
So it's crazy.
And this goes, and I'm going to back up a little bit. This goes for all American pharmaceutical products, because this is a standard test that you kind of do for every product, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things about All American Pharmaceutical is, we're quality. We're the highest quality manufacturer in the States, one of the nicest facilities. And it doesn't matter whether a product like yours, which is technically a food product because it's a coffee product, it goes through the same high stringence as any other dietary supplement. Now, keep in mind, several years ago when the FDA initiated new guidelines for the supplement industry, we became the number 2 most regulated industry. Nuclear, dietary supplements, then pharmaceutical. So your product is being held at a higher standard than pharmaceutical drugs. That means every batch, every raw material is being checked for microbial contamination. You never will find any E. coli, salmonella, any type of molds, any type of bacteria in your product. We're not going to wait for someone to heat it to kill it like most coffees. That's why you can drink this cold. You're not going to have any heavy metal contamination. Again, a lot of coffees, depending on where they're processed, especially China, are tainted with pesticides, heavy metals, lead, cadmium. We're screening for all those. And then on top of it, we're even screening to make sure there's no drugs. Not that, we use any drugs, but again, that's what you get at the end of the day is you get something so pure that the proof is in the pudding. When you try it, you'll see all the love essentially that went into making that product.
Like, I don't want to get political on us, but in the last presidential debate, Trump was talking about how all these companies get things, from overseas and then ship them here. And you mentioned China, and that was one of the things that when I was thinking about doing this process, I actually inquired about doing this in China, and it literally would have cost me half the price. But the reason why I didn't go that route was because, well, one, I've been with All American since 2007, and I know the kind of standards that you guys hold all your products to. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to go through you guys. But again, if I'm going to put out a product, I'm going to make sure that it's 100% quality. And the simple fact, if I would have went to China, I don't know what it would have been. I would have got all this stuff. I don't know if it actually would have worked.
Well, and folks, this show, man. These guys, this show is about the truth, man. They don't hold nothing back. And again, as Anthony said, it's very easy for Americans these days. Everything is made overseas. Why? Is it because Americans, we don't know what we're doing? Absolutely not. It's because everyone's looking to make something cheaper, but they're going to still charge a premium price. This product is made in America. You might be thinking, okay, but the coffee beans come from Brazil. Yeah, but we don't grow coffee in the United States. But guess what? The milk that made that whey protein is from American cows, man. Happy cows sitting out in the pasture, man. It isn't Chinese milk that's, again, contaminated. It isn't from some other country. We're in complete control of all of these raw materials. So even though the coffee comes from outside the country, it is still scrutinized before it is even accepted into our facility. So we're going to screen all of those beans before we even start the processing. Where again, coffee places out there, I'm not going to mention any names, they're all about the taste. They're not about the quality. Who knows what's in a cup of coffee that you go buy from a kiosk? They're not giving you a certificate of analysis. They're not guaranteeing you that they're testing anything. They're only guaranteeing you that the taste should be somewhat consistent. But I don't know about you, Anthony. I even found discrepancies in the taste from one cup to the next.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's funny that you mentioned the certificate of analysis. As soon as I got it, I laminated it and hung it up because that was one of the things that I was so proud of, because like I said, I'm paying extra to go through all that because I want to put out a quality product.
Yeah, and for you folks that don't know what a certificate of analysis means, what that means is a quality manufacturer is going to give to their partner all of the analytical testing, the guarantee of what's in the product, what we did. And I'm sure if you wanted, Anthony would make that available to you. Could you imagine going in a grocery store and if we all started demanding certificate of analysis, how our food chain and our supplement chain would start to clean up? But, there's a lot of manufacturers that won't give you one of those things, and they don't do them because they don't do half the testing that they need to be. So, again, part of going above and beyond the requirements is what we do here at All American Pharmaceutical. And again, that's why I can boldly say that you will not find a product that is healthier, of higher quality than what we're talking about here today. Give it a try.
So it's funny because as soon as I launched the product, I got some messages, from people, some loyal listeners too, saying, "Oh, look, there's another product like yours out there." So it's funny. I looked at it. I looked at the label. This product, it's going to remain nameless, says that it has 20 grams of protein per cup. But when you actually looked at the label, it actually weighs less than my product. So how could that be?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, man. I don't care how many times you add up 4 quarters, you're not going to get a $5 bill out of it. So, and unfortunately, that's the problem is there's a lot of cheating going on in the world. And I don't want to just talk bad about, the supplement industry because you see cheating in every industry, but there are cheaters in our industry. And, when somebody makes some ridiculous claims like that, again, we have to be smart enough to just look at the labels and start doing some simple math and see that doesn't make any sense. If it's coffee, there's going to be so much coffee in there and that has weight. And if there's protein, well, okay, if you got 20 grams of protein, most of the whey protein is 80%. So you got to put in an extra 20% of the starting product to reach that label claim. And if their numbers don't even add up to the protein, well, how are they going to meet the protein, letting them put the coffee in? So more than likely, they probably don't have the protein. And I also heard that product, you can't heat it. You're supposed to put like lukewarm water in it. So
there you go. I didn't even know that. So I'm always learning something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think a lot of people might be asking that have tried it about amounts and protein is if, anybody who's drank whey protein before, any type of protein supplement, there's always a consistency that's in the protein. And in this product, you really don't taste it or notice it as far as the consistency. How are you able to do that, especially fitting it in with the coffee?
We worked on this for a lot of months. So I had about 2 years worth of research in prior to Anthony contacting me. And I think we spent probably 6 months just working on smoothing that out.
Yeah,
so again,
7 actually.
Was it 7? So
yeah.
Again, it was finding the right type of cows. It was finding the right cheese because, whey is a byproduct of cheese. And then as we are running it through the process, what enzymes can we use to basically smooth that out to get it to where if you had never drank this, if you didn't know what this product was and we said, here, take a drink, you would say, oh, wow, that's a nice coffee with milk. You would not know that it's protein.
Yeah, my father-in-law is not into fitness whatsoever, like not at all. So I made him a cup and didn't even tell him what it was. I just told him it was his. I bought special coffee. He had no idea. And actually, it's funny because then I told him and he goes, I told him later in the day. I didn't even tell him that time. And he mixed it like he normally mixes his normal coffee. And later in the day, he goes, I actually feel a little more energetic from it. And again, my father-in-law doesn't do anything with fitness, but I believe that's due to the amino acids that he was getting in his system early on, and because it was such a easy digestible product, it just got to his system faster than most foods do.
And let me tell you, a lot of people who are coffee drinkers have a terrible diet. So what a better way to actually lose body fat than to drink this product 2 or 3 times a day, because that protein actually is like a meal replacement. So instead of you drinking a coffee, no nutritive value, it's like drinking a meal replacement, but you get the whole benefit of enjoyment of drinking a nice cup of coffee. So there you go, a new weight loss product.
Exactly. Well, I want to shift back a little bit to pre-workouts because we mentioned it before. So what's the difference between, we know that there's a lot of pre-workouts on the market. If they work, that's neither here nor there, but we know that they're also loaded besides caffeine, because I'm sure there's people listening to this and say, oh, well, my pre-workout has more caffeine than a normal cup of coffee. Well, what else are in pre-workouts that you should be watching out for versus just having regular caffeine?
Well, I think you got to be careful with the pre-workout market. You know, when the DMAA hit the market, you know, everyone thought that was the holy grail, but that was a very dangerous drug that, you know, companies were putting in that product, some of them not putting it on the label, some of it were. So again, you were actually hindering your workout because they were mixing it with caffeine. And this had more of a psychological effect. So again, that's why there were so many heart attacks and things. But I think you got to be careful on a pre-workout. You know, when they start to get into 400 milligrams of caffeine, even 300 milligrams, be very aware of the caffeine content, because too much caffeine is not good for you at one dose. I mean, you will have a possibility of, you know, a heart attack. Again, remember, it restricts the arteries, so your heart pumps harder to move more blood through there. You can tear up your stomach, and a lot of these things are irreversible. It's very tough on the kidneys in high amounts. And then, again, if you're looking for a pre-workout, look for the basic things that need to be in that pre-workout. You know, the whole idea is that it's things that help give you a better pump, more endurance, more stamina. It isn't just about we got more caffeine and then we fairy dust everything else in there. Again, why pay somebody $29 for some caffeine that you can go buy some caffeine pills for, what is no dose, you know, $9.99 for a bottle or something? I mean, exact same thing. If you're not getting, you know, the arginines, the creatines, the agmatine sulfates, and things of that nature, they're actually going to benefit you through a workout.
So I know a lot of people that are big on pre-workouts, especially if they want to go, they always do like to go up more and more and more. You know, I need to take a pre-workout that has more caffeine, more and more. And, you know, everybody has a tolerance to caffeine. You can build a tolerance to caffeine. What's really the process with the tolerance building in caffeine that you need to be aware of, especially if you do use it regularly for a pre-workout? Because people will take pre-workouts for months on end without ever cycling off of them. Same thing with coffee. They'll just drink more and more and more.
Well, you know, anyone who drinks coffee or caffeine or anything, you will notice that it doesn't work the same way that it did in the beginning days. What happens is you just fry those receptor sites where you have to use more and more and more to get the same results. So coffee, again, you know, people who drink a lot of coffee, the same thing happens where when you first try coffee at night, you're up all night, and then you'll get to a point where you can drink coffee at night and it doesn't bother you. So I think like anything, you know, you should cycle off some stuff every 60 days, whether it just be for a weekend. You know, let those receptor sites just kind of clean out a little bit. And then when you go back on, you'll find that, again, you could use less. But don't get into the realm where you start using more and more and more, because even though you don't feel it, it's still doing stuff to your body. It's still very hard on your kidneys and your stomach.
Yeah, one of the things I've always said to everybody, and I've said it multiple times in this podcast, was if you're going to use, you know, a pre-workout type of a product, never use a full amount, you know, because there's one, like you said, they're usually loaded with caffeine. So I usually use around my workouts, and it's I actually back up a little bit. It's always better to get away with less versus getting away with more. So before my workout, I'll usually use, you know, around 85 to 90 milligrams of caffeine. So that's like perfect in a cup of coffee. So that's like kind of when I came out with this product, I'm like, you know what, that would be a really good all-natural pre-workout product. So that's kind of how that idea came to my mind. But shifting away from that a little bit, since you're the doctor here, the scientist, how often and how much caffeine should one person be consuming daily? I mean, again, we know that there's people that are always going to have more and always going to have less.
I mean, that really is a personal thing because obviously body weight, what's in your stomach. I think, a safe amount is probably on a daily consumption, maybe 500 milligrams, but not all at one time. So, if you're going to burn that all up in a pre-workout and get 300 milligrams, you don't got much room to go. But, just for like coffee drinkers, I mean, if you have a couple cups in the morning, like you said, that's about 160, couple cups midday, that's 320. So, 6 cups of coffee. I mean, if you're going over that, again, you're going to run into some other types of issues. Just coffee itself, being a little more acidic. And even though this product, the pH is controlled, it still isn't good to drink to get too much caffeine in. So again, I think you have to find out your tolerance level. But again, you don't want to be having 2 scoops of a pre-workout twice a day. And, a lot of people get to where they got to take it first thing in the morning and they don't even train till night. So you're just getting way too much caffeine in.
So do you have any, I guess you could say, advice for anybody who's trying to work with that caffeine tolerance as far as not getting it to the point where they have to cycle off? Because let's say people do want to use caffeine purely for a pre-workout situation. Maybe if they rotate it every other day or if they do it only multiple times a week, do they still have to cycle off of it, you'd say, once every 60 days? Or is that just for people who do it every day?
It's for folks doing it every day. If most people don't train 7 days a week. So if you just do it as a pre-workout, and even if you work out 5 days a week, just a couple of days off. But again, I'm going to say cut back your dose. Moderations, smaller amounts will work better for a longer period of time than a whole lot that works good a couple times a week and then you don't feel anything. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to just have one good workout a week. I want to have every workout being a great workout. Don't use caffeine to fuel your workout. I think that's where people run into the problem. Look at what your body is designed. You should be using carbohydrates, glycogen to fuel your workout. That's what your body burns for fuel. The caffeine just takes that edge off. If you're tired, you need to focus better, but don't use the caffeine to fuel your workout. So again, you could cut back to that, as you said, 80, 150 milligrams. So a half a serving of a pre-workout. Or 1 or 2 cups of coffee. And if you do that only on pre-workout days, then your off days, really try to stay away from that, because again, you don't want to get into the realm where you have to get stimulated in the morning and then you got to get stimulated midday and then afternoon and then at night to go to the gym. You're going to always be in a deficit.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that was perfect. Dr. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm glad that I was able to get you on because I really wanted our listeners, and we don't hold nothing back on this podcast, as you said earlier. So I really wanted our listeners to kind of understand why I formulated this product, why I came to you guys, and why this is the best ultimate protein coffee product on the market now. And there never will be anything like it. I can guarantee it.
Well, and thanks for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure, and keep up the good work. You guys got an awesome show going on.
Thank you. Again, guys, if you're interested in picking up some caffeine, you can head over to buyproteincoffee.com. Dr. Jeff, what about you? Where can everybody listen and find out more about you?
Probably the best way, Facebook, Dr. Jeff Golini. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, so just go like my page. And just through that, I'm always posting my emails and, places people can find. You also can listen to my shows. I do a live show on superhumanradio.com on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time called Science for Humans. Or I have a live ESPN 910 show on Sunday mornings from 9 to 10. And those are also podcasted, so you can catch those. But most people find it easy to catch me on the social media, and then they catch up with all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, his podcast is actually really, really good. I don't listen to a lot of fitness podcasts. I've mentioned that before on this show, but that's one of the shows that I actually listen to because every time I listen to this guy, I always learn something, and I kind of always want to be ahead of everybody, and he's way ahead. What's the name of your show exactly so that everyone can go and listen to that?
Yeah, it's called the EFX Sports Show.
So there you go. All right, guys, make sure you listen to that. Dr. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. Big P, your turn, buddy.
All right, guys, it's Pete and Anthony with Dr. Jeff Golini, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.